Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How we doing now?
Well,
Tell her the same thing you just said and see.
my name is Helen Turner, and I live at 2924 McCall Street in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's in the Whittier Mill Village.
Okay, I think we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. I'm so happy. Okay, now you can talk to me.
Well, my name's Helen Turner, and I live at 2924 McCall in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, that's great. And who are we sitting next to?
This is my daughter, Martha Ann Turner.
Martha, can you speak for a moment?
Well, we live in the Whittier Mill Village. And, well, I've lived here all my life. And she moved here in 1927, I believe. 28.
Okay, all right. Everything's gonna be fine now, so we could ignore the tape recorder and we could just talk now. Okay.
Okay.
So you moved here in 28.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd you move here with?
My parents, we moved from, we was raised in South Georgia down there around Montezuma, Byronville, little towns. We was raised on a farm. We left here and went to Pennsylvania. We got up there and we couldn't take it. We stayed 1 or 2 nights and got loaded up and come back. Landed up here on Eddyville River. And my daddy farmed again that year. And then in September we moved to Chattahoochee. I went to work in the mill. I was 15. I was supposed to be 16. I kind of fibbed, you know.
How'd you do that?
Well, they asked your age, and I just told them I was 16. You know, I'm on the job. And they put me to work. Of course, I had to learn. And back then, they paid you $1 a day.
For how many hours?
10 hours. On Saturday morning, we worked 5 hours for half $1. So my paycheck was $5.50 a week. That was 5/10 is 55 hours. I worked for $5.50. Of course, I was learning, being taught how to spin. Well, when I finally learned how, my salary was raised to around $7 a week.
So they paid you while you were training.
Yeah, $1 a day. So then Roosevelt was elected, you know.
Tell me something. Where were you living? You were living with your family at the time.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you were working in the mill?
Well, my father worked in the dye house, and I worked in the spinning department. I had a sister in the card room, and I had another sister in the winding room, and I had a brother in the card room.
Were they all older than you? Your brothers and sisters?
Except one of them, she was just younger. Lois, my younger sister.
And she was working too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anyway, when Roosevelt went in office, you know, he cut our hours to 8 hours a day, and they had to pay us $12 a week.
How'd you feel about that?
Shoot, we was all jumping up and down and having a ball down there. I didn't know it to start when this friend of mine come running over there and said, "You know what's happening?" They had us punching a clock. So we didn't have to punch a clock no more. It was 8 hours a day for $12 a week. That's when he first went in there. And then, you know, it rocked on, and the Dolphers and all of them come out on a strike.
Now, tell me, before we get to that, how did it change how did it change the work? I mean, now you had to work less time and you made more
Well,
money.
what happened, we didn't have but 2 shifts. The day line worked 10 hours, and the people on the night line worked 12 hours. Well, then this put 3 shifts. It put the first and the second and the third. We had 3 shifts. See, the mill run continuously. And especially when World War II started, you know.
Why did they want to run it continuously?
They had to, I reckon, to keep up with their orders.
Oh,
And a lot of people had to work a lot of overtime. I worked some overtime.
Did you had to?
Well, you know, you really, I don't reckon had to, but they wanted you to get the orders out.
Now, some people have told me about something they call the stretch out. Do you know about that?
The what?
The stretch out?
Oh, I don't really know what they mean by that, but
Well, I think they mean that they had to produce the same amount of materials in 8 hours that they did in 10 hours. Did they?
the frames didn't run but so fast. And whatever you had on there, you could not run in 8 hours what could be run in 10 hours because it's impossible. Of course, you had to keep your frames going, yeah. Well, we had to do that to start with. That was from the beginning. You kept them up. That was your job, was to keep them going. Now, I don't know where they got the stretch out at, because
maybe their machinery was different.
maybe they were
than
on
yours.
some piecework, you know, like straightening out the yarn that was tangled up or something, you know. They had people doing most anything, you know. Now, they might have made them work harder.
Or faster.
Mm-hmm.
Let's backtrack just a little bit. Tell me about the inside of the cotton mill.
Well, honey, it was hot as Hades almost in there. And that lint was terribly bad. Before we'd come home every day, we'd get a broom, you know, something like a big Swiss broom, and brush off. Get most of the cotton off of us. When we get home, we'd comb it out of our hair. But finally they got a hose pipe, you know, with air in it, and we could blow it off right before we went home. If you could get to it, everybody was using it. Sometimes you'd have to get the broom anyway and swish off. But anyway, it was a cotton mill, all right. You got it all over you. And especially if you were hot and sweating, which you probably was in there. I've seen it so hot in there till when I'd lay my hand over on the motor, on the end of the frame, you could fry egg on it to be so hot. You see, that motor would get so hot. Had this big belt going up, you know, to a motor up in the top of the building, pulling this frame, and then there was a motor here on the frame, you know. And, oh heck, it was a job all right. If you had roping, you set in, and if the roping run out, that end would come down. Well, then you had to set another one in there and fix it and put the end back up. But if you would catch it before it run completely out, you could tie it in, you know, and the end wouldn't come down. We had to pick the rollers. See, that vent would get in those rollers and clog them up and run around there. We had a time with that. The spinning room was hard where I worked. I believe it was about one of the most hardest jobs down there. But I enjoyed it. I could go down there when I'd be on the second shift. I'd just be feeling so bad. And I'd get down there, you know, and start reaching up and getting my rope.
What do you mean you feel bad? What were you feeling bad for?
Just didn't feel like doing nothing, you know. Get down there and start working and get to feeling good and singing. You could sing all you wanted to. Nobody wouldn't hear you for the noise, you know.
Is that right?
Yeah, you see those frames was making all this noise. And,
What did the noise sound like?
oh, heck.
Come on, try and do it for me. I've never been inside.
Well, I don't think I can
sort of like a train.
No, not that bad.
Can you hear it in your head when you think about it?
Well, not really.
Really?
Metal, hitting metal, or
Well, what it was all these spindles going around and around. Yeah, something like that, I guess. But anyhow, the spinning room wasn't near as noisy as a cloth room out there where you go out there. I forget what they call that, the braider room. You go out there and you'd be deafed. I don't know how those people worked out there and still had hearing. It was terrible out there. You couldn't even holler and talk to nobody out there.
Could you talk to people in the spinning room?
Yeah, if you got up to them, you know.
Now, did the girls do that? Were they talking with each other? And
If they got a minute, if they got caught up a minute, yeah, we'd get together and go sit down, you know, for a few minutes. And we'd come back and check our frames. If they was all right, we'd sit down a little while longer. Now, that was back in the 30s. But later on in life, as time went on and they changed all the machines and carried on, so you didn't do that no more. That might have been what they was talking about when they said something about, you know, up in the thing. He bought all these big old machines in there and paid out a lot of money for it. And I think it done more harm than it did good.
Why?
Well, because it just didn't produce like it should have. And you had to have a crew, several people that didn't do anything but take them apart, tear the frame apart and clean it, and then put it back. And they wouldn't run if they wasn't kept clean. And it was a mistake. Of course, they said they had to keep up with the times, you know. And they changed everything in there and carried on. And
Did the new automated machines put people out of work too?
well, some, yeah.
What kind of songs were you singing on that loom? On that
Church
spinning room?
songs, love songs, anything that come to your mind, you'd sing. Yeah, well, I used to sing all the time. I got to where I don't do it no more.
Now, let's see. Tell me, well, were you married in the 30s by then?
Yeah, I met my husband in the spinning room.
You came in 28,
Yeah,
and you were 15.
yeah.
You went directly for a job,
Oh, yeah,
straight away?
yeah. My brother carried me down there. And this old man that Miss Stacy was telling you about being a boss, her husband, he was the one that gave me the job.
Did he interview you?
No, he didn't need to do that. He knowed he had to learn, you know, how me taught the job. And he told me to come in the next morning to his son's department over there in the spinning room. And he'd put me on, you know, as a learner. And he put me with this old lady that'd been spinning all of her life, and she was supposed to teach me. But if you went to catch one of those spindles, you better catch it right. If you didn't, it'd burn your hand up. It'd be going so fast. You had to catch it real fast. You had to learn all that stuff. You had to learn how to put up an end. You know, end was what? The yarn going on your spindle from the roping that was coming through the rollers. And the hardest job about learning was learning how to put what they call the end up. Put it up there to make it catch and start spinning on the spindle. A lot of people would try to learn spinning, but they couldn't. They'd have to go elsewhere. It was hard. But there's one thing about it. If you ever learn how to spin, you'd never forget it. I could do it today if I had a spinning frame. But that's something you don't forget when you learn it. Yeah, we used to have we'd have a big time down there, yeah. Those girls would get together, you know. And we enjoyed it in a way, but we worked hard. And I've dreamed about a many times being back down there working in the mill.
You mean you have dreams?
Oh, yeah.
What do you see in your dreams?
Being down there and maybe being all tore up and having a time getting my frame straight, or either having it straight and enjoying life. You know, just different dreams. But I'd be like that, like it was back then, you know, in my dream. Yeah, you dream about that. I dream about it now sometimes. It was just, you know, the way when I was young, that's what we did.
How much education did you have?
I went through the 7th grade. Done forgot probably all that.
I doubt it.
But see, we'd lived on the farm. And back then, honey, you didn't have to go to school if you didn't want to back when I was coming up. But Roosevelt passed a law that you couldn't, you know, you had to be 16 to get a job. You couldn't get a job under 16. But see, he wasn't in there when I first went to work.
So how did things change with him? Slowly. I mean, over. Well, actually, why don't you tell me a little bit about, you lived through the Depression in this village.
Oh, yeah, we couldn't, Lord, it was terrible. And the Depression.
Did it change your wages in the mill?
What happened then was this. We all got laid off, except the bosses and their big high friend, you know, best friends. That goes on. Well, they would work 2 or 3 days a week, but everybody else was laid off.
The whole village?
Oh, yeah. So I go uptown.
For how long?
Well, till Roosevelt took it, and Mr. Scott bought the mill from the Whittiers. He bought it about the time Roosevelt went in office. I went uptown and got me a job in a sewing factory where they made dresses. Worked for $3.50 or maybe $4 a week sometimes. And rode the streetcar. We didn't have buses. And walked from Riverside, I don't guess you know where that is, it's up yonder about a mile and a half, to get the streetcar. One evening I got off the streetcar and had been sleeping, and my feet went out from under, and I went about 10 feet sliding. Lord, I'm telling you, we had a time. And then when Mr. Scott bought the mill.
How was your family? Were you the only one in the family working?
No, my sister was Pansy, my older sister. She was going uptown. This lady was paying her $4 a week to learn to be a beauty operator. She was making $4 a week.
And your dad?
My daddy was on the Hoover gang, and he worked for practically nothing. They paid off then in grits and flour and maybe a little coffee. They didn't give you money. The Hoover gang didn't.
That they were called the Hoover Gang?
Yeah, that's what it was. And I wasn't married at that time, but this guy I married, Roy, he was over in the golf field working on it. The Whittiers was having a golf course put up back over here. And he was a night watching over there, and there was an old cemetery over there, and he'd sit on those tombstones and be scared to death of night watching all night. And that's what he got, was grits and meal, and well, get paid about $3 a week in such as that. They didn't give you no money. Money was out.
Now you got to stay in the mill village.
Oh yeah, yeah. We was in the mill village.
Did they collect rent?
When we started back, you had to catch up your rent.
You did.
Mm-hmm. Sure did. When Roosevelt and Scott opened the mill up, you had to pay, you know, they doubled up on you till they caught up the weeks that you hadn't paid. Yeah, you had to catch up your rent.
So when did the mill open back up?
What year did Roosevelt go in? He went in March. No.
January.
Yeah. No, it was March then.
It was March then?
Yeah, President went in March.
I believe it was 32. Does that sound right?
Sounds just about right. I was working uptown in that dress shop. My brother, smaller brother, he come in one night and I'd done gone to bed. And he said, Helen said, Aubrey said for you to get your apron and things and come in the morning. Whoo, I hopped up out of that bed right quick and run and got my, what they call the apron was a thing you tied around you. It had two big pockets in it where you put your you know, when you need to put,
Your equipment, what'd you call it?
yeah, and,
Your threads, your spools.
well, what happened when the end had come down, that cotton would wrap around that thing, you'd have to pull it off and put it in there, and you put it in a barrel, they redone it. So I jumped up and I got ready, and buddy, I was down there the next morning right on time. And I went back to spinning. I'd got enough of that town doings. You stayed on that old streetcar, you know, and walked about 5-10 blocks to your job when you got off. Maybe it raining. But you see, I was used to living right here at my job. We could come home for dinner. We had a whistle. Mel used to blow this whistle for dinner, stopping time, and all that stuff.
Tell me about that mill whistle. It blew it.
Oh, yeah, it was, heck, they had a big, tall smokestack down there, too. And I don't know who blowed it ever, who was taking care of the things. He blew that whistle when it's time to go to work and time to get off, time for dinner, whatever. But what made it so cute was they'd blow the whistle 10 minutes at lunch before time to go back to work. Well, that would give us plenty of time to get back down there and be on the job when the whistle blowed for work. Yeah, I was always glad to hear that old whistle blow at stopping time. We'd come home, and back then you could get a big old Milky Way. You know what I'm talking about, candy. And we all liked them. And I always give my money to my mother. When we'd get paid, I always give her my money. So I'd come in and I'd say, I want to go to the store and get me a Milky Way, and she'd give me a nickel. And I'd go up there and I'd happen to put them on ice in the Frigidaire, and I'd get that ice cold Milky Way. And the boys would all be sitting up there on them steps at that old store. This old store down here is about caboose now. And you couldn't hardly go up and down the steps for the boys and men sitting on each side of sitting there talking. We'd all go up there after we'd get off from work and get us a Milky Way.
Now, tell me about the general store. Was that the place where you bought everything?
Yeah, they had everything. The post office, anything you wanted, except furniture. They didn't have furniture. They had clothes and food and all that
Now,
stuff.
who owned the store?
Whittier's. And they had in there tokens.
What'd you call them?
Well, we called them tokens. I believe that's what we call them. But anyhow, there was quarters and nickels and dimes and dollars and all that. Well, you could get, say, $10 worth of tokens. And then they would tell them how much you wanted to take out every week out of your paycheck. Or you could have $1 took out or $2 or whatever. And they would take it out of your paycheck. Well, you could go to the store and spend it. And I had this little brother and sister, they were twins, Edgar and Edna. So I go up and get me some of them tokens, and I bought him a little suit and her a little winter coat. And then they had their picture made in them. And I'd buy things like that, and I'd buy things from my dad and mother, you know, and this and that and that. And then they'd take it out on my paycheck. Lord, I did have some of them. I don't know what went with them.
You saved some of those tokens?
Yeah, I had some of them years ago.
You think they're in the house still?
No, I don't know where they're at. They got thrown away, I guess. But anyway, back then you didn't get paid off in checks. You got several dollars.
How did they pay you? In an envelope?
Yeah, they put the several dollars in an envelope. This man come along with the payroll. And he'd done it so much so he didn't have to see your number. My number was 934. All he had to do was just look up and see your face, and he'd reach over there and get your money and hand it to you. Your name was on the envelope with a number.
Now, did they take out your rent from your paycheck too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, they took it out of your paycheck or your daddy's paycheck?
My daddy's.
So, how much did he have to pay in rent?
Well, let's see. We had a 4-room house, and back then I think it was $2 a week. But if you just lived in 2 rooms, this used to be a 2-family house. People lived in 2 rooms on this side, and on that side, see, there was a porch over on that side. It's a bathroom now. Didn't have a bathroom then. That was their front porch, and this was this side's front porch, and both families shared the back porch. See, there's a door going out of the back bedroom and the kitchen on the back porch.
And the bathroom was outside.
Yeah, there was a little old building outside sitting out there with a commode in it. Toilet, they called it then. And they had this reservoir up here. They pumped water from the mill, from the river, in the reservoir. And they put something in it to clear it, you know. Well, that's what we washed clothes in at the wash place. We had wash places. And we'd go out and wash, and everybody'd get out there washing, you know, and boiling them clothes. Well, anyway, that's why we flushed the commode with that river water. And no matter how cold it was, you had to go outside to the bathroom.
Now, but to those, most people, they bought most of their food from the store over here?
Oh, yeah.
Was there any other place to buy
Oh, yeah,
food?
my dad and mother didn't buy all theirs there. They bought some there. There was a man in Larrytown right over yonder had a grocery store. And he'd kill beef, you know, and peddle it. Lord, that was the best stuff you ever eat. And he'd come by selling it, and they always bought such as that from him, you know, and then a lot of times they'd buy from his store.
Was it better to buy from him than from the company store?
Well, you could buy anywhere you wanted to, you know, if you had the money. And we usually bought from him because he was a good friend and everything. But we bought a lot of stuff at the company store.
So often, were you able to make money in your pay envelope, or was there a lot taken out?
Well, you see, they say you was making whatever you was making. Say if you was making $8 a week and you had $2 coming out on it, you'd draw $6. You know, you didn't pay taxes and all Social Security taxes and all that stuff then. You got what you made back then.
Were you able to save money? Were people able to save money?
Well, some of them did. Mama did. She'd put a little bit back. You know, and then we had to pay our insurance, you know, life insurance and all
To the
that
mill?
stuff. No,
No?
they had a insurance company man that come around, you know, and write your life insurance up, and then he'd come back every week and collect on it.
So, things were pretty tough then, before Roosevelt.
Oh, Lord, during that Depression, you didn't want to live at a cotton mill then, I'll tell you that now. But after Roosevelt come in...
Why didn't you want to live it? What was this area, what was this community like in those days?
Well, it really wasn't a community. It was a lack of having work. Nobody had anything to do. Nobody had nothing. And my daddy, he had a cow back over yonder where those houses are. Y'all went way down in there. That was a ball ground then, and right below it was a cow pasture thing. And he had pigs, hogs, and cows over there. And Mama would sell milk to the neighbors and butter, and a lot of times she wouldn't get paid. I don't think she got about a nickel a gallon or something like that. And you know, I guess they didn't have the money to pay her. And Papa would go down towards the river down there and cut wood. It didn't even have money to buy coal to burn in the fireplace.
Now, I'm surprised that the mill village the mill didn't take care of you then.
Oh, you had to take care of your own self. The only thing they did do, they let you live in the house because there wasn't nobody else to live in it either. You know, you was there. That was the Whittier boys. Of course, now, when the old man first come in, they said it was a good place to work. I saw Mr. Whittier, the old man. He was a little bitty man and white-headed. Well, when my mother and daddy lived here, when my oldest brother was born, it was back about 1905 or 7.
Well, they were living here then.
They lived here a year or two then, and he was born right down yonder. My daddy worked in the dye house then. Well, Mama said at that particular time there wasn't no paved roads. And Mr. Whittier, he lived over there in the big house. Oh, it was a big one. You ain't seen one no bigger. Over on the hill. Well, she said them big old horses would be pulling that carriage, and the driver would have on the high top hat. Mr. Whittier would be sitting in the back seat. They'd be going up the road. She said she'd seen him do that a many a time. But after I went to work in the mill, he'd come through every now and then, the old man would. Well, the boys, they lived over there in them houses right down yonder. Sid and Roger.
Now, how did they relate to all you workers?
They didn't. They were just, you know,
They didn't have much to do with
they
it?
took care of the business part. Well, they had what they call bosses out in the mill. And they would put you to work and see that you done right. If you didn't, they'd fire you. I never did get fired.
Were you afraid of your boss?
No, I really wasn't scared of my boss because I usually done what I was supposed to do. But I didn't want him to catch me doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. Oh, Lord, we used to go out there in the back and sit down on the grass, in the summertime. And one of us would run in and check our job to see if it was okay. And if it wasn't, we'd run back in and fix it and go back. Back then, I tell you, when they had those old frames they had when I come in was a lot better than the ones they swapped, paid out all that money for. I've thought a lot of times that, they claim when the mill went under, it was on account of Japan. People buying stuff from Japan. Well, they paid everybody that was working at that time so much money on that account. But I don't think that's what done it. I think what done it was all that stuff, money they put in them things. And they had too many Indians, chiefs, and had too many chiefs and no Indians.
Not enough Indians.
Yeah. What it was, most everybody done got to be Mr. Big, wasn't doing nothing. And they was bosses and jack-legged bosses and fixers and all that, And sitting in there, build these little hickeys in the mill where you could go sit in there and smoke. They wouldn't allow you to smoke out around the work. And they'd keep them things full, sitting out there smoking and talking, and all cities that, I think, is what
You're
got
talking
them.
about the 60s now, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, well, but let's go back to the 30s. And
Oh, Lord, this is a long time ago. Well, anyway, I got married in 33.
how'd you meet your husband?
Down there in the spinning room, he doffed the yarn that we run off.
And was he diving off your frame?
Yeah. Yeah, he was he was handsome. Mm-mm. Well, anyway, then my oldest son was born in 34. But I worked almost till the day he was born. I just kept working. And then I couldn't remember just how long it was before I went back.
Now, in 1934, there were big strikes going on all over the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
What happened here at the Whittier Mills?
Well, the Doffers struck.
Just the Doffers? How did it start? Do you remember?
Well, they wanted more money. And Mr. Scott owned the mill. Well, he wasn't going to have no union. They wanted a union too.
Now, I read that there was a union and that people belonged to it. Is that right?
Not at Whittier.
Not at my memory. Well, anyway, some of them might have, the ones that struck might have said they did. Yeah, I guess that old union man had them in it, but not near all the people that belonged to it. And Roy, he didn't go back in for a while because he was scared to.
Who was that old union man?
White. I forget his first name, but his last name was White.
Did he work here?
No, he come in from outside, stirred it up. Well, Mr. Scott was determined, he wasn't going to have no union mill. So he finally cut Mr. Wallace. He was going in to work, and he cut Mr. Wallace's, he split him all across there.
Who did that?
That White, that union man, when it come out, and got the thing going. Well, after that, it died down. So everybody went back to work except a few. They wouldn't put the ones that was the big ones in it. Mr. Scott wouldn't let them go back to work. Some of them started driving taxis and doing this and doing that. But there were several of the men that he wouldn't let go back to work because they caused so much trouble.
Do you remember any of those people?
Yeah, Mr. Sherfield, he went into taxi business. He's dead now. And Martha, that guy that his wife Dad called over him wanting a date. What was his name?
I don't remember his name, but he started
Smallwood. Johnny
used
Smallwood.
car parts lot, and he got wealthy from that.
Is he still around?
He's dead now.
He's dead now.
So it was a good thing for him that they didn't put him back to work.
And the rest of them, Dewey Morris. He was always drank a lot. Well, he just went from drinking a lot to being a pure old alcoholic. And didn't have nowhere his wife wouldn't let him come home, and he didn't have nowhere to go. He was pitiful. He died in Milledgeville. I don't know what you know about that, but it's where they used to carry people when they're crazy. Now they put them in nursing homes.
He was in the union too?
Yeah, he was one of the big doings in it,
Now
What the mill company said was stirring up trouble. The troublemakers is the ones that didn't get to go back.
Now, do you recall? I mean, it just didn't happen overnight. It was slow in the beginning.
Yeah.
There must have been talking going on, and people were meeting.
No, I don't. It seems like, too, they did have 2 or 3 meetings down there.
Where'd they have them?
Down there in front of the mill, I think, at night. Miss White would come out, and they'd have a meeting. And anyway,
What did you think of the union?
I was scared of them because, there's some of them in there is mean. And we didn't have nothing to do with it.
There were things that, do you think there were things that they wanted? Do you remember the things that
Well, they wanted
for?
more money and all that stuff. They was striking, this old Mr. White told them, they was working too cheap and all that stuff. Got them stirred up. You know how you can stir up people. Well, that's what he done. But some of them went on back to work, and some of them lost their jobs. And that was the outcome of it.
Well, do you know how the wages and benefits down there compared to other mills around, any that had a union?
Well, no, I think it was about the same thing, because Scott said time they took out their union dues, they was going to take home less money than what they was already taking home. When you join the union, you have to pay your union dues. And he said that they wasn't going to be no better off because they'd have to pay their union dues, and then their take-home pay would be less than what they was already taking. And he wouldn't let them come in down there. He said he'd close that thing down.
How did he? You mean he'd rather close it down than have a union?
Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said that.
Did you see him say that?
No, I didn't see him, but that's what they said he said. Scott was a rich man. He didn't have to, Of course, I guess he wanted to keep it. He finally sold it,
Now, what what about Talmadge? Now,
Oh, you talking about the governor? Herman Talmadge?
no, Eugene.
Oh, Eugene. Lord, I'm telling you what's the truth. He was a mess. A lot of people liked him. But them that liked him loved him, and them that didn't hated him. That's the way it was with him.
Now, what did he do around the time of the strike?
He didn't do nothing. you ever done anything the people out here didn't know about it, I sure didn't.
I know that at other mills he sent in the National Guard.
No, he didn't send nothing out here. Mm-mm. He didn't send no. He didn't send nobody out here.
I don't think they had all the trouble down here that they did at a lot of the mills.
The only
because-
trouble that actually happened here was when that man cut that feller's throat. And that's what broke it up. After that thing is broke up.
Now, did the mill have guards that they set out to protect the mill?
How did I know?
I mean, you know, like people like the sheriff in the mill or something like
Oh, no, they didn't have nothing like that. What it was, these people that was supposed to be union members, Mr. White or whatever he was that got them in on it, they would go down there and picket. They'd stand down there at the gate, you know, and if you went in to work, they'd call you a scab. And some people went in and worked. They had to, and they called them every thing, scabs and all that, you know.
that. Now, were you going into work then?
No, that was when, I don't know if his Martha Ann or Hugh, one of them was little and I wasn't working at that time. But Roy was, he was working. And he wouldn't go in because he was scared of them. Well, Jim Dooley, he was superintendent of the mill then, and he told Roy not to go in because they could be mighty mean. So he stayed out there for a week or two till things kind of, you know, got...
When did they slit this man's throat? Do you remember?
Let's see. I don't remember just what year it was, but Mr. Wallace hadn't been living there but just a little while. He worked over here at the exposition, and he moved over here and got a job.
Well, I know I was born then and little, because I can remember talk of it.
Yeah, that had to be
And I
in...
was born in 39.
that had to be along about... That had to be... Maybe this wasn't... when the strike come off. I don't remember just what year it
Maybe
was.
his throat wasn't slit during the strike.
Oh, yeah, that's
it
when
was.
it was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you must not have really had any union efforts down there in the 30s. It must
I must have
come-
not. That must not have happened in the 30s.
What, the strike?
Yeah,
Oh, it certainly did.
it did.
Yeah, in fact,
And maybe I wasn't aware of all that was going on. Seems like I do have a faint memory of Roy going somewhere one night, and I was worried about him. So they must have had a strike then that I don't really know anything about.
it was a big strike. It lasted for about 3 weeks. In September of 1934. Not long after the NRA came
Can you
into
remember
being.
him being off work for 3 weeks when Hugh was a baby?
Mm-mm. But I do have a faint memory of him having to go somewhere one night, and was gone practically all night. So he must have been picketing the mill. I don't know. You've lost me there. I can't tell you nothing about that. Now the strike I remember was when she was a little girl, and
Which
she was born in
the early
'39.
40s.
So they struck again.
Yeah, I tell you, now you might get Billy Greer up here now. He can probably tell you more about that because he was more.
Was Billy working there at the mill during the
As
30s?
far as I know, Billy was here from day one.
And Billy Greer lives right around the block over here.
Next door to Don.
Yeah.
You getting tired?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm bad-headed.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, I'm sorry, but I just, you lost me there at that
That's
strike.
okay. That's okay. I'll tell you one
Because
thing.
he was little at that time, and he was sickly, and I don't remember too much about what went on then. I'll be fair with you. And as far as the strike then, I don't remember that.
The one thing that touched me last night that I really went home thinking about was how many hours you must have worked every day. You know, that when you the combination of keeping a family and working at the mill.
Heck, I know it. I used to. Oh, heck, I had the washing and the scrubbing. We mopped and scrubbed then. The cooking and.
So you woke up at 5 every day?
Mm-hmm. And I made just about everything the kids wore. I had a sewing machine.
I don't know how she did it.
Well, you can do a lot of things you think you can't.
What shift were you working then?
First, I worked on the first, second, and third. The last time I worked in the mill, I was on the third.
So you're working at night?
Yeah, I went in, I went to work. I didn't work long on it, though. I went to work on the 6th day of June, 1966. Well, on the 10th day of September that year, Roy died. That was my husband. And I never went back no more. I ain't been back there. I didn't ever go back to work anymore.
You just couldn't go inside?
I was sick then. I had what they call walking pneumonia on Friday night before he died on Saturday night, but I worked. And then I was sick after he died, and I just never did go back.
I think the work had got too hard for her then, and she just wasn't able to work that hard anymore.
Well, I didn't want to go back on no third shift either on account of the kids. And the preacher up here called me one day and said he would get me on the first shift if I wanted to go to work. He talked to the men. I told him, no, just forget it. I just didn't want to get back down there in that rat race. By then, it was a rat race. I'll have to admit it.
But back when you started, it was real different.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't nothing like it was when it went out.
You enjoyed working down there more?
Oh, Lord, yeah. The last few years I worked down there, it was terrible, you know. The way the frames was and all that.
She didn't like the newer equipment.
Did your children go into the mills at all?
Now, this son of mine that's dead, he'd be 56.
I just felt plumb nervous. That crowd was here, and I wasn't expecting it. Lord, I don't know what I'd say.
Why don't you, just for the sake of the tape, tell me your name and where we are and your address.
I'm afraid I'll say something wrong.
You just say Elsie Turner and give your address.
Well, Elsie Turner, 1905 Woody Avenue. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what,
Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia.
And you Whittier Mill Village.
Yeah. Went to work down there when, shoot, when I'm here by myself, I can repeat everything like that, but I'm nervous or something.
Well, you just look at me, man.
I think my daddy moved here in 1928, I believe.
Why did he move here?
Well, we lived in the country like, and we moved here. Let's see, your daddy's brother, Bill West. Was that his name, Bill West? He was a boss down here, and he lived up in Cherokee where we did. And then he got us a job down here, and we moved down here.
And how old were you then?
15.
And you started working right up?
Yeah. I told him I was 15. You wasn't supposed to want to work 16. But I would have been, we moved here in March, and I'd have been 16 in July. They didn't care how old you was back then. But I wasn't 15 when I went to work down there, and they didn't ask me.
Are you afraid of the work? How'd you feel about that, the inside of the mill and working there every day?
Well, I was young. I didn't think nothing about it. I went there and worked my hours just like the others did. Well, I guess a lot of people went to work back then. It wasn't like it is now. I have to be 16. I don't know nothing else.
Well, tell me, in 1933, Roosevelt brought in the NRA.
I guess.
You remember that? That's when the hours went down to 8 hours?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, anyhow, when Roosevelt got it to be the president, then he put all the working hands on 8 hours. We was working 12 hours at night. That's the best president we ever had. Then see, they could hire more hands than to fill up each shift. Did your mama fill out one of them? Will you help me? I don't know.
You're doing fine.
Well, listen, one thing that I've been asking folks about is I'm interested to know. Well, after Roosevelt made it 8 hours, he also gave you more pay.
Yeah, I think we got more pay. That's good at that. Because when we went to work down there, I don't remember now how much we made, but we didn't make nothing much. Maybe about $1.50 hour, I guess. Back then, though, things was cheap. It wasn't high like it is now. Nobody couldn't live on that now.
If you hadn't been living in one of the houses, would you have been able to live at the time?
Well, most of the people, they was just building this village down there, new village. We moved here, and they've got some of the houses done, and we moved in there. I think my daddy, they take out rent. You pay ticket every $1.25 a week. I think is what he paid rent.
But what she's saying is, if they didn't let you live in these houses for that cheap rent, you wouldn't have enough money to live on, would you?
No, because you didn't make nothing much. But if anybody quit their job, you see, they'd make them move out of the house.
Did that happen much?
Yeah. Well, I guess so back then, because a lot of people maybe work a while and get mad and quit or something or other. Okay, if they lived in a house, they had to get out. Then we finally wound up buying them.
Now, you were here during the Depression. You moved in 28.
Well, there wasn't no work during the Depression. Everybody, I reckon, is out of a job. You don't remember that either, do you? And she's not old enough.
And what was happening here in the mill?
Well, that wasn't no, let's see. That's been so long ago, gosh, I done forgot. Let's see. I believe we got scripts, something other, to get groceries with. You know, you didn't work, didn't have no money to buy groceries with. And they I don't know whether they get them out down to the mill or not, but it wasn't about $1 a week, I think it was. But back then, groceries was cheaper than they are now. I'd have to live off $1.50 now a week.
They called it scripts.
Yeah. You know, they give you a paper and you go store it. And then my husband, I know, used to go over on the bank at that store. You get them cheaper. And every what we got, I don't remember now.
Did you buy a lot of your stuff at the company store here?
Yeah, I used to come up that store and get a lot of my groceries. Maybe on the weekend, then we got a car. Work was getting better. Everybody got out here and went and got the groceries somewhere else, got them cheaper. And there used to be a post office down at that store. That thing, they ought to tear it down. That man that bought it, somebody ought to run him away. Well, he don't live here, but that looks awful. I probably said that, some of the kids just broke out the window lights. Don't it look awful?
I'm going to jump just a bit. You were just telling me a little bit about the strike, and you're probably the first person that I spoke to today that remembers this strike in 34.
Yeah, I remember it good.
Well, tell me what you do remember.
Well, I know we'd go down there and sit down there a day or two, 2 or 3 hours and come home, fix us something to eat, and just go join the crowd, just be from the office down there. Of course, you don't know where the office was at, but we just sat down there all day. We had to stay on the picket line. Everybody worked in the mill, but then...
Why did you join the picket line?
Huh?
Why did you decide to join the picket line?
Well, I worked down there in the mill, and everybody's supposed to go, and stay down there. And the Whittier boys was there, and some of the people got rough with the Whittier boys. But they just come out of the office out on them steps and talk to us and trying to get them to settle it or something.
Do you remember what they said?
Lord, no, I don't remember.
Now, did they have meetings before? Did they have some meetings before everybody walked out?
Well, they may have in the office. I don't know.
I don't
But
mean.
these hands that pulled the strike, well, now, this part I worked in, we stayed on in there. But see, there's so many down at the gate where we had to go in to work at. We was afraid that we'd cause trouble, and then we stayed out too. Those hands that didn't work up there in Old Mill, we worked in Silver Lake. I was afraid somebody knocked me in the head to going in there. You wasn't supposed to cross the picket line.
Now, do you recall anybody that still lives around here that was active in organizing that strike?
Well, I don't want to say. Lord, no. I guess I'm about the oldest one that worked. No, Daisy didn't work down there. I mean, at that time, nobody else, not, I don't guess. All of them's dead.
Do you remember any of the organizers for that strike? Do you know how it was organized?
No, I don't. I didn't take, huh?
Like,
I mean, did they stand outside the mill a couple of days before this strike in September and hand out literature?
They had, I imagine they did, and them Whittiers owned the mill, and they would come out on the steps, all of these working people would be out there in the streets, and they would come out and make a talk, trying to get them to go back in. Of course, we couldn't, there's dolphers and spinners, all like that. But I didn't have nothing to do with the strike. It wasn't in my part where I worked at. But
so you just went out and sit?
Yeah, we just stayed out there because they didn't want you to walk we'd walk the picket line, or they would, but we just sat down on that bank in front of the mill, and let them have a meeting and talk. And the Whittier boys would make a talk, but some of the hands just holler, they just aggravating, But it finally got settled. I don't know how long. It might have been out. We was about a month or two or something, I guess.
Now, do you recall any of the people singing when they were on the picket lines?
Well, I used to know, but I don't know. But now that's been years ago, and I'm getting old now. Forgot. Now, my boss used to live down there in that house where Don lives now, Mr. Odom, but he wasn't here at that time. Now, Fletch Ellington lived down there on Whittier Avenue, down there where Sadie lives now. That's one of my bosses lived there. And now he's the boss in Silver Lake. And the old mill, I remember all of them men's dead bosses that used to be here. And shoot, I done forgot everything really.
But
I had a hard time back then. We didn't make nothing, but a little payday, that's lots more than we was making on a farm in the country.
why do you think people were striking?
Well, I reckon they finally got the strike settled. Mr. Wallace, he had to go to the hospital. I don't know how long he stayed in the hospital. Some man just cut him all over in here.
Now, was that during that period of time
Yeah,
in
that's
34,
right.
or was that in 40?
I believe that was in 34. That was the first strike they had down here.
Right.
But I don't know where he was able to work anymore or not. Lord, that like scared him to death.
Did you see that?
So, I believe I was down there. I might have come home for lunch and went back. And then still, I believe I was down there when the ambulance come and got him. But now I think he had to stay in the hospital a long time.
Now, do you know who slit his throat?
Done what?
Do you know who that person was that slashed his throat?
It was some of them strikers. I don't remember what their names were. I done forgot all of them. That's been years and years ago. And then I'm getting old. I can't remember it.
Had you ever done anything like that before? Been on strike?
No.
And, how was? I mean, were there a lot of women that were doing it?
They were standing down there like I was. The men were ones fussed, cussed, and everything else down there. They raised Cain. When the bosses, the people on the mill, they wouldn't come out there where it was at. They was on the steps at the office. And then when they say what they had to say, they just go back in. And then people walk up and down the street in front of the mill.
Did they carry signs?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I think they did. Now, I don't remember.
Do you recall a group of men or women in a car driving up here? It's what they call the flying squadron. And driving up here with a group of union people to talk to the picketers?
No, they done their work down there at the mill. They didn't know where all of them lived at. But I think some of them lost their jobs, some that they couldn't bring under control or something or other. And they had to move out from here, but I can't tell none of their names. I don't know now. Well, that's been a long time ago.
Did you get in trouble for picketing?
No. See, my part of Silver Lake where I worked at, we had to stay out with a bunch, and I didn't have nothing to do with it. If they had a fight back then when I was young, I'd sit there and laugh about it. But we didn't say nothing, because we wasn't into this big strike, but we had to stay out of that department I worked in.
So you went on the picket line anyway?
No, that was up in the, well, they used to call it in the old mill. That's where the spinning room and winder room and everything was at. But we all had to stay out because we was afraid to get in there, afraid they wouldn't let us out. I believe Mr. Oldham was the boss, I believe, over us. But we didn't have nothing to do with it.
Well, how were things resolved? Do you recall?
Huh?
How were things resolved?
Well, they finally got it settled and it went back. Now, they pulled about 2 strikes down there, though. But I don't know.
Did it seem to do y'all any good? Did you make more money or anything?
I don't remember that. Well, in a textile mill, there's a lot of people trying to get up trouble, start things, and then part of them stick together and part won't. But they finally had to go back to work.
Why do you think that was?
Well, some people organize anything, and then the other one will say, yeah, let's do this and that. And I don't know where they got any more money, what they struck for, what was cause of all of this. Now, I can't remember that. But all the mills, textile mills, used to do that, strike, have
Did
trouble.
y'all ever wish you'd making more money and all?
Well, yeah, we didn't make about, I don't remember, maybe about $1.50 an hour. But then, as I said, when Roosevelt got in there, we got shorter hours and more money. No, years ago, you didn't make nothing. We just got their house, that's all we got.
Did you realize back in those years that y'all were making a lot less money than other people out on other jobs?
Well, now I tell you, back in my young days, they wasn't nobody, they wasn't no high-priced jobs nowhere. Because times is better than now. And then for years after that, when everybody get a raise, we get one too. We was making about $2.98 or $3 or something, when the mill shut down. We was making pretty good when the mill shut down.
You mean that was in the 70s, right?
I guess so.
What did people think about cotton mill people?
God, I don't know.
Other people that didn't work in cotton mills.
They
what
thought
did they
they
think about all of us?
Well, I don't know. I didn't care what they thought because I felt like I was as good as anybody else. That's why I always liked that. Because there wasn't more harm working for your living in a cotton mill as was anywhere else. Yeah, there's a lot of people work down there. Finally, picked up and had a third shift, first, second, third. That's during Roosevelt's time. You know, had to hire more hands, start up more shifts. Well, I enjoyed it because that's the only place I ever worked at. Back in the roaring 20s. If this was still running, I guess I would be still down there.
Right now?
If they'd work me, I would. You know, when you get old, you feel better working. You do sitting around. You get sitting around, your hip spreads out, and but I wouldn't be able to hold a job down now. I don't like for anybody to even mention my birthday to me. That has hurt me worse than anything.
Oh, Elsie,
I don't want to get
you ought
old.
to be proud to be 80.
Would you be proud if you was 80-year-old? You know you ain't got much longer to go.
You have at least 25 more years left.
Oh, God. I won't be here 25 years from now. My son, that makes him so mad for me to say anything. Oh, I'm going to try to move out of here someday. They trying to get me to move to Woodstock. They're building some apartments up there for old people. And Linda, she thought she was going to get me up there. Just now building them, and people, widow women, getting them apartments. Linda said, Elsie said you'd be better off up here. Said you won't have to pay nothing for your rent and telephone bill. I said, Linda, my cemetery's right over here across the river, and what did I want to come from the Woodstock for?
Well, you
I
don't
appreciate-
have to pay rent now.
No, but you have to pay other things. Now, I done paid my tax on the house last week. January, here comes the insurance on the house, $500 and something. And that hurts when that one payday. I'm going to get me a man, that's all there's to it.
Now, how are
No, I'm too old for that, huh?
Maybe you're not. Now,
No.
did they ever try and get a union into this mill again?
I don't think they ever got, they tried to, I think, one time, but they never did get a union down there. I don't, now, they might have, but I don't remember now.
I don't think they did. Probably not.
Well, let me see if somebody in here that knows more about it than I do. I don't, they
Would
know.
Olin know much about it, you think?
No, he don't, he's not been here as long as I have. They
He
come,
hasn't.
no, Lucy, let's see. No, I don't think he know. He's like me, he don't know nothing. He thinks he does. Yeah, y'all hadn't been out there?
Not yet.
What about Dixie?
Huh?
Dixie Edwards.
Well, I guess Dixie knows right smart about it. Well, he used to be sort of a boss down there too, you know, in the machine shop, wasn't he? Let's see. Yeah. He fixed things that's tore up or fixed openers or slicers or things like that. That helps it. Now, Dixie been down there for years. He might know more about it than anybody. And he stood in with the bosses.
Get a boss's point of view from him, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, are there any other workers around here that you think
They
might
no,
remember this?
these is new movers. And them boys there, they don't even know what a textile mill is. And Common Myrtle used Common work down in the mill. Myrtle did too, yeah. You might find out more about Dixie. He knows more about how to explain anything than I would. I guess he was down there during the strike.
No, but you think Wallace got his throat cut in 34?
A what?
Mr. Wallace
Oh.
in 34?
Oh, yeah. Now, I believe it was. I won't say for sure. I was down there when he had to scared the fire out of me.
Did
But
you?
I don't like to see no fighting and blood or anything. They had to call the ambulance, get him in the hospital. That's about all I can remember of it.
Now, how many people do you think were down there picketing?
Well, I guess nearly everybody worked in the mill, and I don't know how many people worked in that mill.
About 600
See, they closed
people.
it down, you know. All the hands worked down there.
But there must have been some people that wanted to go into work, isn't that
Yeah.
right?
Well, now I believe they stopped them, you know. It was mostly spinning room, them golfers, and there's more of them than anybody else. And they was afraid they'd get in trouble with people going in. But I can't tell how long we was out or nothing. But they finally got the strike settled. But they had two, but I don't remember what year there was. Yeah, Dixie might know everything. He's a whole lot younger now. I'm getting old and
Do
forgetful.
you remember anybody that might be living down in the village now that's down there when you came or before that you think might remember?
No.
What about Miss Baker or Elizabeth
Miss
Pritchett? Or
Now, Elizabeth will be all right. She's older than I am. Her and Henry both work down. Now, they work in spinning room. But now, Lucy and Olin, like me, they work in Silver Lake. We didn't. This was a different department, but we all come out. They work down there at
Why
night.
don't we visit Miss Pritchett?
yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Elizabeth's been down there all this time, she
Yeah, Elizabeth will probably know that smart about it. But since I had that heart attack, it just seemed like everything's left
Elsie's
me.
memory's not as good as
No, I
she
used to
had a
remember
hard
everything,
time.
but I just get things messed up.
Well, I hope you're feeling better.
Well, it's been about 5 or 6 years.
Well,
But I
if,
just
you,
figure-
if you don't think Olin
Well,
been
now
here no longer, well,
Dixie would know more about it because he was sort of a boss down there in the machine shop, and then he stayed up there in the mill lots, you know, and he may have it all wrote down. Ain't no telling.
Okay.
But I believe Dixie would know more. I ain't saying Luke and Olin, but I mean they didn't.
Why-
They worked in Silver Lake too. Silver Lake wasn't as many hands in there as there was whole mill.
But basically, do you have the sense that maybe this strike was not a big deal in people's lives?
No, it was over with. I don't know how long it lasted.
I think about a month.
Sure enough. Well, it might have been. But back then we didn't care. We was out.
Because, you know, there was violence all over Georgia. The
Yeah.
National Guard was
Yeah,
sent
they
in
used to
all
strike.
over Georgia.
Yeah. The exposition used to go on strike over here in town. It went out of business for this place down here. All textile builders went out of business. But Dixie would be near, tell you more than anybody else could. Let's see, because Coleman used to work down there, but he probably wouldn't remember nothing because he's like me, he's had a heart attack. And let me see. I can't think of nobody else.
what about
Jim Henry, have you been out to Jim Henry's?
he came in the 50s, didn't he?
I don't, yeah,
40s.
yeah, he wasn't there them years.
What
Well,
about Sally Kelly? You know how long she's been here?
She come from Canton. Well, I don't believe she's here when we moved here. She might know that smart about it because she worked in spinning room. And I guess she was in that strike that come out.
Okay.
Well,
You just have to ask somebody that's got more mind than I have.
I believe Elizabeth and Dixie probably be
Yeah.
the best.
Okay, well, we'll go talk with them.
Well, I just go right through their flower bed right out there at this little piece up the road. Where he's at. Because he knows he's a boss down
How
there.
far is a piece?
Little piece right up the road.
How far is a piece? How much?
Just a good walk.
A good walk is a
Yeah.
little piece?
Well, I mean, it'd save going plumb down this way and then going back up the street.
I mean, you know, I'm from New York, so
Are you? Well,
Usually
what you
don't
do?
say-
Well, what you doing
I
down
guess
here?
you'd say
I'm doing some research on this strike.
From New York? Well,
Yeah.
what they don't? What? God, I wish you hadn't got
She's
my.
gonna make. They're gonna have a television program about it in about 2 years, and then we
Well, I
can
won't
see.
be here to see it.
Shame on you! Don't say
I'm
that.
glad you're not making pictures. I thought I brushed my hair, but I've been laying there in the bed. I watch my programs every
She
evening.
got a picture of Billy.
Huh?
She got a picture of Billy showing one of his paychecks.
Got a what?
He has a paycheck from 1935.
From down there to Mill?
Yeah.
Well, see, I used to have some pictures. I don't know what I done with them, though.
You have pictures of the family in the 30s?
No, I don't reckon I got one of them. And show it to me someday and I'm down at your house. Is it just a group from Whittier Mills? Or?
No, it was, she just, he had his paycheck and he held it out and she took his picture holding that paycheck from the mill.
Mm-hmm.
So, Don may have some pictures of people.
I don't know where he's at. He's
Back
not
there.
working today.
He's got a lot of stuff on the mill. Don.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he'd give me some things, too.
He's got pictures and everything.
Now, yeah,
He showed
if you
me
could see Don, he'd tell you more about it. He wasn't here. He never did work down there.
He's probably
But
got
now
more pictures.
he's give me some pictures and things.
He
I mean,
showed me a picture of a baptism in 1934 down at the river.
Mhm.
who did? Who?
Don. He's got a picture of a baptism down at the river they were having. You remember anything about that?
Well, the picture of the baptizing, I ain't got it. But they didn't have none. They used to baptize right over here in the branch, back of Larrytown.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, it wasn't a river.
Oh, okay. I was wrong.
Well,
It was
it's
going
back
to
of
the river.
Larrytown Church. You used to go down there in a creek and baptize. My husband, I think, was baptized, but I don't think I got a. I might have had one. I gave it away. Janelle, somebody might have it.
Now was that church owned by, was the church property owned by the mill?
No. Well, that was that baptizing from this Second Baptist Church over here on Bolton Road, and that they didn't have nowhere to baptize them, and they had a place down at the branch, to fix it to get that water all back in there, and they got about 20 Miss Gaz Way and Coleman, all of them was baptized over there at the time we went. And I don't know who all was on there now. But somebody had that picture the other day, and I saw it here a while back.
It was probably Don.
Yeah.
Don's.
Oh.
Well, I guess
Are we-
we'll
I
go
don't
over
know where
there.
Don's got that one or not.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
got-
does.
Well,
Yeah.
where'd he get it at?
Somebody gave it to him.
Well, he don't know nobody on there. I don't know what he wanted with
No, he found out, he got all the names of everybody on there. Someone showed him who everybody was. You should ask him about it. He'll show you.
Oh, she's got to talk to Don.
Oh,
Yeah, I spoke to Don.
Oh. He's been up here today sitting here on the porch, but he's sick. He said just, well, there's a boy got killed last night. This girl, the boy's girlfriend called him and told him, and he just killed about that. Now he might be gone out there where they're at now. But he said he just wasn't able to work today.
Well, listen, thank you very much.
Well, I didn't tell you much because I done forgot it.
Well, and I didn't
If you
ask
come
you
here
too many
about
hard
if you'd have
questions.
come here about 20 years ago, I could have told you everything. But since I had a heart attack, everything goes away. You don't know what I'm talking about when you all get old.
Yeah, I guess I will.
Well, how did you get down here?
I took a bus, MARTA,
Oh.
public transportation.
I started to say, well, I thought maybe you drove a car and come through.
I do drive, but I didn't take a drive right